neon sign of the old route motel was a heartbeat in the desert. It flashed blue, then yellow, then a tired blue again, like someone trying to remember the right color. My car died past a mile marker. The engine coughed and went quiet, and the highway stretched on like a sleeping snake. I walked the motel because the sky felt too wide, and my phone had the stubborn honesty of no signal. Inside, the desk lamp made a puddle of light. The clerk was a thin man with ragged hands and an old name tag. He did not ask where I had been or why I was smiling like a stranger. He slid me a key with a number scratched into brass and said, "We keep rooms for those who need to rest." His voice was soft and had the kind of patience that belongs to people who have waited a long time. The room smelled of soap and lemon, and of something sweet that hovered like the memory of an orchard. The mattress sagged as if it had learned to hold sadness. I turned the TV on to fill the silence. Static came first, then a black and white program that showed the motel in another time. Children ran across the parking lot, and a man leaned against a sign. A date flickered in the corner, 1947, and then the screen fuzzed. The images felt like a door you could step through if you dared. I slept fitfully. At 3 a.m, there was a knock. Not the knock of someone carrying luggage, but the careful knock of someone tapping a rhythm into wood. 2 knocks, a pause, 3 knocks. The sequence felt like a name being spelled by a hand. I peeked out into the corridor. The light along the hallway hummed. No one passed. The vending machine buzzed like a small insect. A woman in a yellow dress sat on the last step under the neon. Her knees pulled to her chest. When I looked back, she was still, and when I looked again, she smiled at me, though she had not moved. Her eyes were very old. "Some people never leave," she said, as if answering a question I had not asked. "They wait." I went back inside, and the walls seemed to breathe. The radiator made small. Patient sounds like an animal that dreams. Then, beneath the noise, I heard a whisper. It was the soft shape of my name. Not the full name I had on legal papers, but a childhood nickname I had not heard in years. It slid along the seams of the door and warmed my neck. I told myself towns leave traces. Memories stick to motels like lint. I told myself it was my imagination. But when I checked the little drawer in the bedside table, there lay a photograph. It was faded and curled at the corners. For people stood under the motel sign. The child in the front clutched a paper bag and smiled the exact way I used to when I found a secret prize. On the back, someone had written my nickname in a hand that trembled like a leaf. That night, the dreams were sharp. I walked the highway barefoot and found my footprints filled with old ticket stubs and dried flowers. A man in a suit offered me a coin that melted like wax. The woman in the yellow dress followed at a distance and pointed to a box half buried by the curb. She did not speak. She only held out her hand. When I woke, the box was at my door. It was cedar, small and warm. Inside lay a rusted key and a folded note. The note read, "Routes remember. Some refuse the road." My hand shook and something tightened in my chest like a knot. I had a memory then, one that did not feel borrowed. I remembered a boy with bare knees and a paper bag standing under this very sign, a promise whispered into the night. I remembered leaving and thinking I had closed the door. The motel had kept it open. I took the key to the clerk. He looked at it as one studies an old photograph. "We keep things here," he said. "Names, small objects, regrets. People come back in pieces. Some pieces stay." His eyes were the color of forgotten coins. "You can leave." But the motel asked a favor of those who passed through. What favor? I asked, and the corridor seemed to lengthen. "Tell the story," he said. "That way the road hears it too. Route 66 likes to be remembered. If it forgets, it grows lonely." I drove away at dawn. The neon winked out like a tired eyelid. The desert caught my rearview mirror and stretched it into a painting. For a while I believed I had left the motel and its small, patient hunger behind. The highway hummed, and my radio worked again, and ordinary songs filled the car. Weeks later, I found myself back in the town. You do not always choose these returns. Sometimes a memory tugs like a string. The motel stood the same, its paint flaking, its sign breathing in the dusk. The clerk was older by a hair. The woman in the yellow dress sat on the steps, her hands folded like a prayer. She looked at me and nodded as if she had been expecting me to come back with a name. "Did it ask you for anything?" she asked. "Only to remember," I said. She smiled and pointed to a room where the door hung half open. Inside the room, a family portrait leaned against the wall. The faces were kind and faded. On the dresser lay a small collection of things: a matchbox with a cartoon lion, a child's marble, a note in handwriting that curled like a question mark. Beside them sat a small cedar box identical to the one I had found.